Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Gaurachandraya. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Bhahyam Dadadi Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Gurun Sri Utapadakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavangcha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim. Yat kripa tamaham mande Sri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Namaham Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Hare Krishna. So, welcome everyone on site and online. We don't want to use offline because this is the main one, on site and off and online. So, we welcome everyone for this morning lecture on some of the teachings and some of the pastimes of Srila Narottama Thakur Mahashai, whose disappearance day is being observed today. I seek the blessings of all the senior Vaishnavas present that I may somehow present what has been shared with us magnanimously by our acharyas for your pleasure and my purification. Srila Prabhupada ki Akumara Brahmachari Sarvatirtha Darshi Parama Bhagavatottama Srila Narottama Dasa. This is what Bhakti Ratnakar mentions. Akumara Brahmachari, he was an Aishtika Brahmachari. He was Brahmachari right from birth. He had made it a point to remain Brahmachari. Of course, to remain Brahmachari, you need to know what is Brahman. Then only can you be in Brahman. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that, what does he say about Brahman? Brahmanohi pratishtaham. I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman. So Brahmacharya can be practiced in any ashram. In fact, it has to be practiced in all ashrams. So there are some of us brahmacharis who stay in the brahmachari ashram. There are other brahmacharis who stay in the grahastha ashram, others who stay in vanaprastha ashram, sannyasa ashram, etc. And so, in other words, to remain Akumara Brahmacharya means to be constantly Krishna conscious, which is what he was. And we will know very soon, as you may have heard in previous lectures in the past also on Narottama Thakur, how he became so ecstatic in Krishna Prema that he became a Akumara Brahmachari. And then Sarvatirtha Darshi. So what are the 5 things that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu outlined for all Vaishnavas? Sadhu Sangha, Nama Kirtan, Bhagavat Shravan, Madhuravas, Shraddher, Shrimurtir, Shevan. Madhuravas, which means, as Srila Rupa Goswami mentions in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Pritis Tat Vasatis Tale. to rejoice while staying or traveling to places of pilgrimage. But why do devotees go on pilgrimage? It is not with yat tirtha buddhis salilena karhichit, not just to take bath or bathe in places of pilgrimage. It is to hear about this Thala Purana, hear about the deities, the Ishtas, hear about the glories of the Supreme Lord and the Vaishnavas. So, with that as his purpose, Narottama Das Thakur, the moment he entered the life of detachment, he started traveling across various places, just like we see in the narrations of Srila Narada Muni. Just after he left his mother, after his mother left him, whichever way you want to look at it, he started traversing through the entire villages and towns across. He picked up various experiences. Of course, all with the understanding that it's Krishna's adhyakshayana prakriti, not that he went to all these places for sightseeing or natural environment based green tourism. No. He went because he wanted to understand itam hi vishwam bhagavan ivetaraha. This world is non different from Krishna himself. Sarvam Vishnumayam Jagat. Everything is Krishna, provided we connect it to Krishna. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe. So Narottama Das Thakur went around everywhere, all the places of pilgrimage of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. He went to Navdeep, he went to Shantipur, he went to Ekachakra, where all his associates are also connected. Then he went to all the places in and around Jagannath Puri also, where Jahan Shaba, Leela Koilo, Sri Sachinandan. So he went to all those places and he relished those places. So that is what is mentioned by Sarva Tirtha Darshi. He went to all those places. He met all the Vaishnavas wherever they are. He went to Keturi, he went to other places, Gopalpur, Khandwa, wherever there are Vaishnavas, he went to all those places. And Srila Narottama Das Thakur's Samadhi Sthala is there in current Bangladesh. So I don't know how many of you have been there. Anyone been there? Narottama Das Thakur's Samadhi? So maybe that's something that Sridham Mayapur or Kolkata people can help us go to these kind of places. Bangladesh, with all these wonderful Leela Sthalis. Srila Bhakti Prem Swami Maharaj once told me that there are so many Vaishnavas in Bangladesh, we can't even imagine. When they give you a feast, it will be some 30, 40, 50 different items. Srila Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaj, when he visited Bangladesh, his flight was delayed. He reached at 4 o'clock because devotees were waiting since 10 p.m. And they came to a crowd of, you won't believe, 5,000 people waiting for the lecture. So he gave lecture, kirtan, everything, almost 2 hours. And so this amazing Vaishnavism flowing. That is because of Mahaprabhu's personal mercy and mercy of such Vaishnavas. So Srila Narottama Das Thakur appeared in the Gopalpur subdivision of Rajshahi district. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada mentions. And some people say this is Keturi. His parents were Raja Krishnananda Datta, who had a brother Purushottam Datta, who had a son called Santosh, who was also a devotee. And his mother's name was Narayani. Who else is a Narayani we know? Narottama Das Thakur's mother. So she was Thakur's niece. So Narayani Devi. And he appeared there, although this is external. Who is Narottama Das Thakur originally in Brajalila? He's Champaka Manjari, who assists Rupa Manjari in her pastimes of assisting their Lordship Sri Radha Krishna, Radha Rasa Bihari, in the Radha Rasa Bihari form. And he is the one who, many people say, who wrote Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yana Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamakyam Dadadi Swapadantikam. Because he is naturally, he is assistant of Srila Rupa Manjari. this Champaka Manjari. And it is mentioned by Srila Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaj that on the day of disappearance, we should generally discuss the teachings. And on day of appearance, you should discuss pastimes of the Acharyas. This is one indication. Although we will try to, because some of these pastimes are so amazing, so wonderful, that you could get teachings from the Leelas themselves. So there could be Leela Vichar and Tattva Vichar from both. They could both coexist. So Champaka Manjari appeared in this family of Kayasthas, which is supposed to be Shudras in an external sense. But then we know that Shatkarma Nipuno Vipro Mantratandra Visharada Avaishnava Guru Nasyat Vaishnava Swapacho Guru. If you appear in a family of even dog eaters, what is speak about Shudras? Dog eaters go outside the Varnashram. Shudras are at least within Varnashram. But he is a guru. Srila Rupa Goswami mentions that he can perform even fire sacrifices by being purified through the process of Krishna consciousness. So he appeared. Why did Champaka Manjari appear in this family? There are two reasons. One, of course, to deliver the conditioned souls. Innumerable conditioned souls. Second, to set an example that an Acharya can appear in any situation. Just like Krishna can appear in any species. He can appear among the trees. He can even appear as a mosquito or a cat, which has happened in various kalpas. So quite similarly, the Acharyas mention that an Acharya can appear anywhere. That is why he is an Acharya. Because he sets an example how to be Krishna conscious. How to walk the talk. And so therefore, he appeared in this family on a Magha Purnima. Very interesting. He appeared on a Magha Purnima. Then he developed detachment from his family because of this. What? And near a place called Kutubpur in current day Bangladesh, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates were walking, and in the middle of the kirtan, suddenly the Supreme Personality of Godhead started saying, Ha Narottam, Ha Narottam. Bolo. It's important for us to purify ourselves. Taking the name, like Mahaprabhu used to take names of Gopi, Gopi, Gopi. To take the names of Acharyas is no less. Yo Haresh Cheva Jivena Bhedavakta Hari Priyaha. Those who speak about the Supreme Lord as different from the Jiva are dear to Krishna, to Hari. That is why in the Madhva Sampradaya, to which we are connected through the Gaudiya Sampradaya, they say Hari Sarvottama Vayu Jivottama. What? So this is like when we say Jaya Jagannath in Rath Yatra. Likewise, they do the daily Rath Yatra in Udupi. This is what they say. Hari Sarvottama Vayu Jivottama. So this is Narottama. Prabhupada mentions that Tama is darkness, Uttama is one who transcends darkness. So Nara Uttama, meaning that personality who appeared in a human form to deliver those who are connected to him beyond darkness, beyond Tama. That is Nara Uttama. Sometimes they use the word for Lord Ramachandra as Maryada Purushottama, but he is also sometimes described as Narottama. But anyway, Narottam Das. And so his name was taken by the Supreme Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then Nityananda Prabhu asked, why did you take this name, my Lord? So then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him, my dear Lord, you don't know your glories. You just don't know your glories. Every time you demonstrated ecstatic divine love of Godhead, I had saved this. This comes in Prema Vilas. I had saved this. And had kept it so that I can hand over this love, ecstatic love of Godhead, to Narottama when he comes later. So I will keep it in safekeeping with river Padmavati, who is currently in Bangladesh. Padmavati river. So here I am, Padmavati, you please keep this repository of my own divine love. Nija Bhakti Karam. Priyacharutaram, Nadanartana Nagara Rajakulam. That is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His own love, his own devotion. He kept it there and kept it with Padmavati. So, river Padmavati asked, Mighty Lord, how will I know when Narottam comes? I won't know. So then he says, don't worry Padmavati. When Narottama steps, he keeps his foot in the river, you will start overflowing. So that's the way you will know it is Narottam. And sure enough, at the age of 12, because Nityananda Prabhu is Guru Tattva. So generally, who leads you to Krishna? We generally say that by Krishna's mercy we get Guru, by Guru's mercy we get Krishna. So, Sriman Nityananda Prabhu's divine love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is the Guru's love for Krishna, was saved by Krishna for the disciple or the Acharya who comes next. And that was revealed by the Guru, Nityananda Prabhu, in a dream to Narottam Das. He just said, he told Narottam that, Narottam, in the morning now you go, bathe in the river Ganga. There you will get divine Krishna Prem, Gaura Prem. And so when he got up in the morning, Narottam went to river Padmavati. And as soon as he set foot in the river Padmavati, the river started overflowing. Avatirne Gaura Chandre Vitirne Prema Sagare. It is mentioned. Srila Prabodhana Saraswati Thakur says. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this love was overflowing through river Padmavati, and he bathed in the river and received that love, and soon everything about Narottam changed. His complexion changed. It was semi-darkish. He became almost golden colored. He became so humble, tolerant, and immensely effulgent. And his character also changed. His complexion changed. His character changed. His very outlook changed. He was an ecstatic love of God. In English, there is a usage, nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. So, Srila Narottama Das Thakur had no option but to leave the quagmire that is of material life. Dal, what they call in Hindi. The quagmire, the swamp, the quicksand of material life. So, his father, Krishnanand Datta, and his uncle, Purushottam Datta, had gone on some business. At that time, he deceived Narayani Devi and the guards and ran away from home. Which other example do we know like this? Ranadadas Goswami. So quite similarly, he was super detached. He went and then he wandered around various areas, looking here and there. It's almost like this morning we were chanting Shad Goswami Ashtakam. He Radhe Vrajadevi Kecha Lalite, He Nanda Skuno Kuta. This is the Gaudiya Siddhanta. Our Siddhanta is not Raat Shama Sapne Mein Aaya. No. The Acharyas never said that I have seen Krishna. They're always saying, I want to see Krishna. Krishna Kothai. So he was looking, just like his Gurudev Lokanath Goswami, who was instructed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to revive the places of pastimes of Radha Krishna and the 12 vanas. So he went out and requested and begged the forests of Vrindavan, of the Dwadasha ones, to reveal themselves. Please reveal yourself. The deities to reveal themselves. And of course, he had Radha Vinodilal, which was his loving deities. And so Narottama Das Thakur was wandering all these places in ecstatic love. And soon he became very, very tired because he was just a young boy. Maybe hardly 16 or so. Because he appeared sometime in the middle of the 15th century. Not directly, it is not mentioned. Mid 15th century of the Shaka era. Shaka era starts in 78 AD. So mid 15th century. Closer to 16th century, I think. So there it is mentioned that, like you see in our Bhagavad Gita as it is, you see the Guru Shishya Parampara that is provided. Thereafter Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is mentioned Rupa Sanatan, then it is given Raghunatha Jiva, then it is given Krishnadas Kaviraj. But around the same time, a little before Krishnadas Kaviraj, naturally Lokanath Goswami, the first of the Goswamis to arrive in Vrindavan, Shri Radharasa Bihari Lalita Vishaka Ki Jai, Shri Sitaram Lakshmana Hanuman ki jai. Shri Shri Gauranathai ki jai. So, it was not possible for Gaura Prem to just be ecstatically spread without Mahaprabhu's mercy. So when Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami wrote Sri Chaitanya Charitamrit, Loknath Goswami had clearly told him, don't write anything about me, don't write much, then you won't get my blessings. So just like every Gopal Bhatt Goswami also told him that. So all these acharyas were like that. They never wanted name, fame and prestige or profit, adoration, distinction. So Loknath Goswami, about him nothing much is mentioned. So effectively you could see that he was contemporary of the 6 Goswamis. So after Mahaprabhu, the next was the Goswamis who revealed love of Godhead. After that, Krishnadas Kaviraj came, and the next phase of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, the revolutionary spread and growth of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, came through 3 contemporaries, which is Narottama Das Thakur, Srinivas Acharya, who wrote the Shad Goswami Ashtakam, and Shyamanand Prabhu. So these 3, they represent the next stage. They distributed Goswami literature in profuse quantities, despite shortcomings in the form of technology. They had used to get Brahmanas to write on Talapatras, all these. Prabhuji can understand how difficult it is, book distribution would have been those days. When even now we are struggling for newsprint, imagine what they would have struggled for Talpatra and Brahmanas to write it without any lithography or higher level digital printing or anything. So they distributed the books. And the next stage after that, if you see our Guru Shishya Parampara, after Narottama Das Thakur, whose name is given? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. But in between there are at least 3 levels. There is Ganga Narayan Chakravarti, there is Radharaman Chakravarti, then there is Gopinath Acharya, I think, and then there is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and then Baldev Vidyabhushan. That is the next stage of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And after that came Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj and others. So very, very critical historical part of our Gaudiya history is represented by Srila Narottama Das Thakur. So when he was too tired, as he was wandering in ecstatic love of God, a golden Brahmana appeared there. Who? Dvijamani Gora. He came and he gave him a bowl of milk. You know, it's important we can understand how milk is to Krishna consciousness. See, everyone, Rupa Goswami gets milk, he gets milk. So he got milk and he was too tired, he didn't even partake of it. But sure enough, at night, when he slept off, Rup Sanatan Goswamis appeared in his dream and they fed him the milk. So literally, not just the milk, they also gave him the mercy and blessings. And after that, he was never the same again. And he had heard about Loknath Goswami, met him in the... So far, there are a few instructions from Narottama Das Thakur's life that we can look at. 1, an acharya can appear in any family. And in his life, we understand that he appeared to not only deliver the conditioned souls, being Narottama, but also to demonstrate this aspect, that an acharya can appear anywhere for the deliverance of mankind. The next one is that once you develop love of Godhead, it is natural. Bhakti pareshanubhava viraktir anyatra syat trishaika kalehi. Tushtim pushtim chutapayo vigrasam. All these things 3 things happen when you take food. What are the 3 things? Tushtim, you get nourishment. You get satisfaction. Tushtim. That is bhakti. When you're performing bhakti, we like it right from the beginning. Otherwise, why do people chant? Why do people dance? Why do people take prasadam? There is some taste that you get. Right from the first morsel of eating food, you develop some satisfaction. But the difference is, food after some time, or in our case prasadam, after some time, there is diminishing marginal utility. You cannot take much. But bhakti is not like that. It is anandamadi vardhanam pratipadam. So tushtim. And then is pushtim. There is nourishment. What is that pushtim? Krishna gives us some indications, some reciprocation through devotees, guru, or himself. Para Eshanubhava, we get a feeling of connect to the Supreme Lord. Again, Ramru Prabhu can tell us more about this. I have no idea. Reciprocation from the Lord. Parayeshanubhava. And the third one, this is compared to Pushtim, nourishment. Because when we get this reciprocation from the Lord, we feel nourished. And then the third one is Shutapa. Shutapa means cessation of hunger. What is that compared to? Virakti. Virakti is different from Vairagya. Vairagya means a mood of renunciation. Jnana and Vairagya are natural outcomes of bhakti. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojata Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chatahayitko. So these are happening. But Virakti happens at the stage of Bhava. It's one of the symptoms of Bhava. Just like you have Pritistad Vasatistale, we just mentioned. Or like Narottama Das Thakur's case, this is what happened. He developed Virakti, complete detachment from material life. He left his home. And no bound of the family could hold him. Once you develop divine love of Godhead, Virakti is a natural outcome. We don't have to separately try. This the Vishya Vinivartande Niraharasya Dehinam Rasavarjam Rasopyasa Param Drushva Nivartate. The higher taste is developed, then the lower taste is naturally eschewed and neglected. So this is what happened in Narottama Das Thakur's in his life. And then you get the mercy of the parampara commensurate with this level of sincerity that you demonstrate. So because he was so surrendered and he was weeping tears in separation from Gaur Nitai, it is mentioned as a child that Panchatattva used to appear in his dream and used to console him. Don't worry, Narottam, you will get our love. So when somebody is so surrendered, it's like an insect knocking on the window. You feel compassionate and open the door. It is not like your sadhana can attract Krishna, but the helplessness that we demonstrate to surrender to Krishna, that will get us the mercy, is what Acharyas say. And in Narottama Das Thakur's case, though is Nitya Siddha Parikara, still he demonstrated how much yearning, craving, desire you should have for Krishna. So then there was a reciprocation through the parampara and Krishna himself, and that is what happens. And then he developed the desire to surrender to Srila Lokanath Goswami, who is like a Viviktanandi Vaishnava, Viviktanandi or Bhajananandi. They relish bhajana, but doesn't mean that they can't preach. Quite similarly, Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj was a Viviktanandi Vaishnava. Sakshat Vairagya Murte, Vipralambara Sambode Padambu Jayate Namaha. And Lokanath Goswami Pad refused Srila Narottama Das Thakur when he was Narottam for Diksha, saying, you're from a very, very rich family, very aristocratic, I can't give you Diksha. There is some mention given of that. Elsewhere it is not mentioned like that, but he had a craving and he approached Lokanath Goswami Pad in hiding. Every early morning when Lokanath Goswami Pad would take care of his personal daily duties, before that Narottam would come, clean that place up, keep fresh sand and water for cleansing after the ablutions for Lokanath Goswami. And it happened regularly. So then one day, Lokanath Goswami, he's a Viviktanandi Vaishnava, he doesn't Nidrahara Viharakadi Vijay, there is no question of sleeping. So he stayed up night, chanted all night, and then early morning, sure enough, he saw Narottam doing this. And not only that, every day Narottam would clean that place using coconut leaves, cleaning that place, jhadu the place, and he would hold that jhadu to his heart, saying, this will give me love of Godhead. We heard of Bhakta Padatuli, Bhakta Padajal, Bhakta Bhukta Avasya Jaitin Mahabal. This is much beyond. Such love he had, and he had such conviction that by Lokanath Goswami's service, serving the Vaishnavas, Prema Latikera Mula, Bhakata Seva Parama Siddhi. That was being demonstrated. And it used to develop ecstatic symptoms. And therefore, Loknath Goswami mercifully accepted him and granted him initiation. Though it is mentioned that 3 times he approached him. Gaur Krishna Das Babaji Maharaj did not grant initiation to Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Quite similarly, Loknath Goswami had also, it is mentioned, refused Narottama Thakur because of his aristocratic upbringing and his scholarliness. Because as a young boy, he had memorized the scriptures in and out and the conclusions. So when he granted him initiation, he was bathed in ecstatic love of Godhead. And who's Loknath Goswami in Brajalila? Manjulali Manjari. So Manjulali Manjari and Champaka Manjari, they are an eternal relationship. Bhugarbha Goswami was Prema Manjari. So they were the first 2 Vaishnavas sent to Raja by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he granted him initiation and he was in ecstatic love of Godhead. And just like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada was instructed by Srila Gaur Krishna Das Babaji Maharaj various things, not to make disciples, etc. Because he was not making. But kya shishya banaya, as they say. Ek hi shishya banaya, lekin kya banaya? Loknath Goswami Pad had Narottama Das Thakur Mahashai, who preached in the whole of Odisha and Bengal. And similarly, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada preached in most of India and beyond also. Bangladesh, Burma, etc. Those days, of course, it was not Bangladesh. Burma, etc. So, and it does not mean that a Goshtanandi he doesn't do bhajan. It's a misnomer. People think that, oh, he is sadhu. It's not like that. It's very clear that a Goshtanandi is a bhajananandi who preaches. The bhajan has to be internally very, very, very condensed. Then only can one really preach, like Srila Prabhupada did. So Loknath Goswami granted him initiation and let him out to preach. He allowed him to bathe in the tears of separation. Imagine your dear Gurudev is giving you personal service every day and suddenly says, now go preach. I just saw on the 6th floor where I stay in the ashram here, there's a nice line that Srila Prabhupada's quote is mentioned about austerity being following the instructions of the spiritual master, and taste for the holy name can be developed by serving the spiritual master, right? Something like that. So that is possible only by serving the spiritual master. Jahara prasade bhai ebhava toriya jai Krishna prapti hai jaha haite. उनकी कृपा से जीव भौतिक क्लेशों के महासागर को पार कर सकता है तथा कृष्ण की कृपा प्राप्त कर सकता है. It's possible that he can develop love of Godhead. And Narottama Das Thakur's life is demonstrated this example. And he went around preaching everywhere, accepting disciples from all so-called communities, including so-called Brahmanas by birth. So naturally, the Smartas had a problem. You know, so they call Smartas because they think they are smarter. They are very smarter than us. No, they follow Smriti too much sometimes. And they don't follow, like Srila, like His Grace Madan Mohan Prabhu, one of my mentors, is a disciple of Srila Mukund Maharaj. He's from Russia by birth. He said, everything is a ritual if there is no I for ISKCON and SP for Srila Prabhupada. So I remove SP and I from spiritual, it is only ritual. It is only ritual if there is no Acharya's institution and Sadhu Sangha. So the Smartas are following that kind of a situation, and many of them are impersonalists also. Karmakandis and impersonalists. So they complained to the king, Raja Narasimha Dev, so that so they came with Digvijay Pandit, Rupa Narayan. This is different from the one who came to Rupa Goswami and earlier. This Digvijay Pandit came, and so at that time he had initiated so many disciples, including Srinivas Acharya's disciple Ramchandra Kaviraj was very dear to him. They were almost like contemporaries. That is why you say Ramachandra Sangha Mange Narottama Dasa. They were very close to him. But he was also like a Shiksha disciple. And also Ganganarayan Chakravarti, his initial disciple. He had even converted Hariram and Ramakrishna, sons of one of the Smartha Acharyas, Shivananda Acharya, I think. They came to offer goats for Mother Kali. And he converted them to Vaishnavism. And at night, Mother Durga personally instructed their father to also take shelter of Narottama Das Thakur. All this comes in Prema Vilas. And by the same token, these people, when they came to debate, Rupanarayan and the king himself came. Because he was envious of Narottama Das Thakur's fame and popularity. So you can't be, it is a misnomer that you make enemies only by being part of management services or something like that. If you're a very good preacher also, you can make enemies. It happened. He was such a big preacher, people became envious of him because of his popularity. So what happened then? So this Rupanarayan came. And then Ganganarayan Chakravarti and Ramchandra Kaviraj dressed themselves as a pan seller and pot maker. And they put up telas, stalls nearby. And when these people came, they started speaking with each other in chaste Sanskrit. Samskrita. Samskrita means pure and refined. They spoke in pure refined language, Sanskrit. Samskritam. And then they were shocked. If this is what the normal panwalas and pot makers in this place are doing, then what will happen? Still, they started getting in a discussion. It became a debate. And Ganganarayan Chakravarti and Ramchandra Kaviraj defeated their Smartha and Digvijay Pandit roundly, squarely, finished him off. And so the king, the Acharya, everybody, they took shelter of Narottama Das Thakur. And his fame spread further and further. Because he was preaching. Actually, Ramanand Rai answers Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When he asks him who is the most famous person, he says, a devotee of Krishna is the most famous person. And Chanakya Pandit also says that a rich man may be famous in his village, but a scholar, his fame is known across. So that's how Narottama Das Thakur Pad's fame spread far and wide. And he was constantly bathing in the ecstasy of love of Godhead. Srila Radhanath Swami Guru Maharaj says, it takes one to make one. So because he had devotion, he could give devotion. Bhaktishtu Bhagavat Bhakta Sangyana Parijayate. Devotion comes from devotees. And so he could spread it across through his disciples and he himself also. And he also introduced different styles of kirtan, various different styles of kirtan. And the other side of it, yesterday I was speaking with Sundar Chaitanya Prabhu, that it is a misnomer that in preaching there is no management required. In preaching, you have to be a very good manager also. So the best way of preaching, one of the best ways of preaching Srila Prabhupada introduced was organizing big festivals. So the very first Gaura Purnima festival in Gaudiya history was organized by Narottama Das Thakur in Kheturi. See, when there in Kheturi, he got this organized. There were hundreds of thousands of Vaishnavas who arrived. Acharya Rani, Janava Thakurani was also there. She was the head of the Vaishnava Sampradaya. There were also other Vaishnavas like Meenaketana Ramadas and the sons of Advaita Acharya. And there were Vaishnavas from across Bengal, Odisha, everywhere. They all congregated. Srinivas Acharya was in charge of, he was a priest. Those days, in that festival, they established 6 different deities, including Gauranga, Sri Krishna, Vallabhikanta, Janavikanta, several other devotees, several other deities. 6 deities were installed. And these deity installations were happening. There was ecstatic kirtan started by Narottama Das Thakur in the festival. What this is, Uddanda Kirtan. Everybody is raising the hands and jumping up and down. Just like the early days of ISKCON. when Hare Krishna movement included Hare Krishna, not just movement. There's so much chanting and ecstasy happening. So nowadays, temples do have a program of Harinam Sankirtan, but oftentimes it is only during festivals, and many times we see that the new bhaktas, they do kirtan regularly, but after they become a little regular, everybody gets so busy with services that direct Harinam Sankirtan does not happen as much as it used to happen in the previous years. It's still happening. There are devotees in Radha Landaneshwar temple who go out every day. In several temples it happens. In India also there are some temples. In Mayapur, of course, there is kirtan everywhere. And there are 24-hour kirtans happening in Radha Rasberry temple, in Radha Shamsundar temple in Vrindavan, in Radha Pasadi temple in Delhi also. 24-hour kirtans effectively, not 24-hour, but active hours kirtan. Whenever the deity is on, live kirtan is going on. And on Ekadashis, we have 24-hour kirtan here on Ekadashis. Yeah? 12 hours, okay. So in some temples we have 12 hours, some temples we have 24-hour kirtan. In Delhi we have 24-hour kirtan. So this way we are doing kirtan in the Hare Krishna movement. But really the ecstatic mood in which kirtan was performed during Mahaprabhu's time and later on in Prabhupada's time is something we need to start again for us to all develop the same taste in bhakti. Otherwise we'll feel dryness after some point of time because there is no holy name. One of my Shiksha Gurus, His Grace, Burijan Prabhu, is an initiating Guru in ISKCON. With the initiative of him and Srila Satyanandan Swami Maharaj, they have started a Govardhan retreat center at Govardhan. I was telling somebody today, and if you get an opportunity, please visit that place whenever you go to Vraj. It's amazing you can have nice Katha Kirtan. It's called Hari Kirtan Stali, I think. Yeah. So that place, there is one place, there's nice place where you can have lecture, etc. And there are 6 separate cottages which are bhajan kutirs, where devotees can sit and chant and read. No mobiles allowed, no laptop allowed. This is very important. So, Srila Burijan Prabhu says that I don't expect anybody to last beyond 3 hours. It's not easy because we'll feel separation from the mobile and other things. But what I'm coming to is Narottama Das Thakur was not just ecstatically practicing Krishna consciousness. He was not just preaching. He was also a big organizer. And this huge festival being organized was very important. Kirtan became so ecstatic that in the midst of the Kirtan, Panchatattva personally appeared. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda was already there and there were more. They all appeared and they danced ecstatically. And after the Keturi festival, Acharya Thakurani herself cooked and served prasadam to all the assembled Vaishnavas. Because she is Shakti Tattva, she can do it. And so these are some of his preaching exploits. Preaching to the Mayavadis, organizing big festivals, ecstatic preaching, and chanting of the holy name. Naturally, he was in Vraj, sitting and chanting of Loknath Goswami Pad. Hundreds of thousands of names, definitely lakhs of names. When his Gurudev asked him to go out and preach. So he had to leave Krishna to give Krishna. Like Srila Prabhupada did. He left Vrindavan to give Vrindavan and he got Vrindavan. So similarly, Narottama Das Thakur had to leave Krishna and Guru to give Krishna and Guru to everyone. And he did that. And extraordinary Vaishnavas, their lives and birth are of course extraordinary. But their departures are also extraordinary. There's some interesting aspect about him that I think we mentioned this briefly, that he appeared on a Magha Purnima. He developed his detachment on a Kartik Purnima. And then he got initiated also on a Purnima. I forgot which Purnima. Somewhere mentioned. So all 3 things happen on a Purnima. So even these are, Vaishnavas choose the tithi in which they do things. All 3 days are Purnimas. I don't want to make a mistake which Purnima. I had written it down somewhere. So then came his time for departure, and he called his disciples. He told them that I'm going to be entering the river. Some say it is a Ganga. Um, he entered the river, and he said, "You please bathe me with the waters of Ganges." They started pouring water on him, and as they started pouring water on him and bathing him, he started melting, just like Giriraj Govardhan. Little bit, every day, one little bit is reduced. But Srila Narottama Das Thakur started reducing in form. He started practically melting. His form started getting smaller and smaller. He started becoming miniature. So they started getting worried. They were crying that they knew what was happening. But they had the spiritual master's instruction also. So they kept doing that. And sure enough, when he melted into the water, he melted as milk. It started appearing white. So milk mixed with the Ganges water and the tears of his disciples. So that became a wonderful collection or a fluid or a preparation. And what did the disciples do? They collected it, kept it in a pot, and kept it in Dugdha Samadhi. And it is also present in Bangladesh. It's called Prema Tali, because there is love of Krishna clearly manifesting. So Srila Narottama Das Thakur, he wrote two wonderful books, Prarthana and Prema Bhakti Chandrika. And it's mentioned that Srila Gaur Krishna Das Babaji Maharaj used to keep these two books, only these two books, nothing else. If these two are there, Krishna Prem is for sure. We see such wonderful songs of Narottama Das Thakur, and Srila Prabhupada clearly mentioned the songs of Narottama Das Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur are non-different from Vedic scriptures. So we say that. We easily quote Narottama Das Thakur for everything, right? Mosama patita prabhu na paye bayar, we say. But again, it's like a Vedic thing we say. Karma kanda, jnana kanda, shakali bishir banda. And we say, Golokera premadan harinam sankitan rotina janmilo kenetai. Just like we quote Sanskrit shlokas, we quote the acharyas like this, Narottama Das Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So he was constantly in a mood of separation. He said, Hari Hari Vipale Janama Gavainu. This is Srila Prabhupada's favorite bhajan. In that bhajan, all this comes. And Narottama Das Thakur's famous line when it comes is, Jyotidaya na koribe patita dekhiya, patita pavana nama kishire lagiya. He praised Gaurang Mahaprabhu. Mosama patita prabhu nahi tribhuvane. There's no one more fallen than me. That's the mood. Once, one of my senior godbrothers, His Grace Bhaktivinoda Prabhu, he has a different perspective of looking at Shastra. So he was delivering lecture. All of you know him. He's from Mumbai originally, connected under other Asbihari, met Srila Prabhupada in 1975. So he asked his question. So one devotee was asking a question at the end of the lecture, and he said that, Prabhuji, I'm actually most fallen. So I'm not qualified to ask this question, I'm most fallen. So Prabhuji cut him short there and told him, how can you say you're most fallen? You've taken the position of Narottama Das Thakur. He's saying, Mosama Patita Prabhu, how can you be more fallen? Like Srila Prabhupada said, you are never the most in anything. And somebody wrote, your most fallen disciple. So while we should develop the mood of the acharyas, Mahaprabhu's devotees are Vairagya Pradhan. So Narottama Das Thakur set the example, the yardstick, or the benchmark for humility. He had everything, wealth, wisdom, good upbringing. But like we say, Janmaishwarya Shutrashubhi Edamana Matapuman Naivarhya Tabitatame Toma Kinchana Gocharam. Unless we consider ourselves materially impoverished, we will never be able to develop attachment to the love of God. And that is the mood demonstrated by Sri Narottama Das Thakur. When despite having everything, he wanted his spiritual master's mercy. He was willing to go to any lengths to get his mercy. And that is a qualification required for getting devotion. And even Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Kara More, Tama Bina Kedayala Jagata Samsare, Patita Pavana Hetu Tava Avatar, Mosama Patita Prabhu Na Paye Bear. So that's the mood of most fallen helplessness. And that's the way to attract Krishna's mercy, which is the greatest lesson we get from Narottama Das Thakur's life. And every day, his surrender to his Guru is demonstrated by us also. Lokanath Lokera Jivana is Lokanath Goswami. Every day we sing Guru Puja. Sometimes devotees, because of the line, they say Lokanath Lokera Jivana, because it says Lokera Jivana. It is Lokanath Lokera Jivana. So, this Guru Puja Kirtan every day, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Dayakara More. This is also a Kirtan that is practically sung every day. So Srila Prabhupada has included Narottama Das Thakur's teaching as an integral aspect of our daily program in ISKCON. And that is why we should develop this mood of Narottama Das Thakur to serve Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this movement. Srila Narottama Das Thakur Mahashaya ki, this Mahashaya name was given to him by Srila Jiva Goswami, his Shiksha Guru. He gave Shyamananda Pandit and Srinivas Acharya their title, and also Narottama Das Thakur. Thakur Mahashaya name was given by Srila Jiva Goswami, his Shiksha Guru, with whom he undertook a lot of studies and distributed the books. But Jiva Goswami told him, go preach in Keturi. Srinivas Acharya stayed back at Bana Vishnupur to get back the books that were stolen from Bir Hamvir, the dacoit king. But Narottama Das Thakur kept preaching, and through his last instruction also, it was preaching. He connected his disciples, and his departure was as extraordinary as his life and activities. Srila Narottama Das Thakur, Tirobhav Titi Mahamahotsav ki, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki. We have about 7-8 minutes. If some of the Vaishnavas could make some contributions. Is a mic you could give, Prabhuji? His Grace Ramarup Prabhu is one of my serious inspirations in Mumbai. Grateful to hear from him.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for the nice description. You forgot to mention one important thing. Prabhupada said Narottama Das Thakur went to Manipur.
Oh, yes. No wonder you're the right person to point it out.
He preached, he turned Manipur into a Vaishnava state.
Yes.
There's one very interesting pastime. Once Dhananjay Prabhu was massaging Prabhupada. Prabhupada asked him, where are you from? Then he said, he's from Scotland. Scotland people, they have occupied Manipur. So he said, you should go and preach in Manipur. One more interesting thing. The level of renunciation, like Mahaprabhu's devotees, Vairagya Bhakti, Vairagya Vidya. When his Narottama Das Thakur's parents, they got a dream that they will have a child. Did you hear this? They will have a child. Mahaprabhu told them. Then they were so disturbed that, oh my God, we are thinking of sense gratification. That is why we got a dream that
you'll have a child.
We will have a child. What Mahaprabhu will think like that, they were so disturbed. Then when they went to Mahaprabhu, Jagannath Puri, they begged forgiveness. We are thinking of sense gratification. That's why we got a dream like that. Mahaprabhu smiled and said, no, it is my desire that you should have a child. Such a great child will be born. That.
Thank you. This is really important. The Manipur pastime especially. Thank you.
One question I have.
Yeah.
I always wonder, Mahaprabhu preached all over South India, and in Chaitanya Charitamrita it is described that all of them are converted, devotees. But we don't see many devotees. In the same way, Narottama Das Thakur preached all over Bengal, Orissa and all. How come so much deviation has happened, and then almost bhakti has disappeared till the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur? What is the...
you should tell me the answer, but I'll try to answer you. Because both of us are from that part of the country. And there are two explanations generally given, although I haven't read any Prabhupada quote on this. One is the fact that, like Vasudev Datta did, during Mahaprabhu's time, he preached so vehemently and vociferously There was practically nobody left to be delivered. They all went, and this is the next round of conditions also have come in. And the second thing is Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. Shankaracharya preached, it's Shiva himself. And he's the greatest Vaishnava. And so when he is given an instruction by Krishna, he will follow it perfectly. So Ramanuja, before that, Vishnu Swami, Ramanuja, Madhva, Nimbarka, all appeared, 4 acharyas. We have the common joke that all the acharyas appeared in the south, but God appeared in the east. This is Mahaprabhu. But still, despite their combined efforts, we have not been able to touch Mayavad so much that even Prabhupada's Pranam Mantra after so many years has to talk about Nirvishesha Shunyavadi. It just shows the great surrender of Sripad Shankaracharya, who is Lord Shiva himself. He was so surrendered to Krishna's instruction that he preached so vociferously that the seeds are just not burnt. These are the 2 explanations I have heard in discussions. I haven't seen any Prabhupada reference. You know something Prabhupada has mentioned on this? Okay. You know something Prabhupada has mentioned? I am not aware. Okay, you had a question? Sitaram. Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. No, I just had a small comment.
Yes, please.
From your class only. So it was very nice to hear you. After a long time, I heard your class, Prabhu. It was very nice. One very important point you brought up, which is my, I would say the contemplation of my life, is the early days Kirtan, the early days mood. So when you mention about the Harinam and the Sankirtan, and you also mentioned how the management, so my understanding and my life's contemplation has been that the whole movement's management is meant actually, or the duties of the leadership and management is to manage in such a way that the Sankirtan, Harinam Sankirtan, book distribution should be the crown of the movement. Should be the crown of the movement. That will be a good management. And the second thing which I observe, because after a long time, after serving 15 years, I read the book Radha Damodar Vilas. And that's when I understood what was the movement all about. There is book distribution and Harinam which we do. It was very nice. And it was very inspiring and purifying. But if you see the difference in Srila Prabhupada's disciples in those days, they were going out as Sankirtan missionaries to win the world. The mood was to win the world through Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan. Like you have a community which want to win the world by force, by jihad. But then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan mission, I remember this is my favorite quote, remembrance of Srila Prabhupada. Somewhere in 72 in one of the lectures he mentioned, he saw the preaching mood in Sydney Rath Yatra. And one of the lectures he mentioned, if the preaching continues like this, there won't be any other religion in this world except Hare Krishna.
Aye.
So, what is missing is the spirit of those days. And it's a great responsibility of leadership to keep that as a goal of our management and preaching.
Thank you.
So that is what you reminded me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Srila Gopal Krishna Goswami Guru Maharaj says, Krishna consciousness itself is a shortcut. Please don't take any shortcuts in Krishna consciousness. Yes, Krishna Vajan Prabhu. Thank you. Yesterday, because of his mercy, I got a chance to offer Deep to Damodar.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for wonderful narrations of the pastimes and teachings of Srila Narottama Thakur Mahasaya. If you can kindly permit, can I add something to Ramarupu's comment?
Please, most welcome. Most welcome.
So, he gave a comment about Narottama Thakur's parents getting... Mic is little slow. Hare Krishna. So, he was commenting that it was not the parents of Narottama Thakur. They were the parents of Srinivas Acharya.
Oh.
Srinivas Acharya's parents were getting dreams and then they came to Jagannath Puri. Narottama Thakur's parents were not there. That is first. Anyway. Second point, as far as my understanding, which I have heard from the ISKCON leaders, why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's preaching could not survive in South India afterwards, and why the Shad Goswami's preaching and Narottama Thakur's preaching could not survive, as Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, institution is a necessary evil. So because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not create an institution, or Shad Goswamis, or Narottama Thakur, Srinivas, or Shyamanand Pandit, or for that matter, Rasikananda Acharya. They just preached voraciously. They preached vigorously. And they disappeared. They delivered their generations. But they did not create an institution to uphold the Shravan and Kirtan. So that's why, due to the influence of Kali Yuga, eventually dwindled. And that's why Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was the first Acharya who started this concept of
Institutionalized
institution.
form.
And Prabhupada just carried forward. That's why. Otherwise, when Prabhupada disappeared, eventually also, it was somewhat like, getting astray and here and there. But because Prabhupada had created that institution properly, and they were trying to follow Prabhupada, so that's why we are surviving now.
Very good point. That is what probably Prabhupada means when he says that Mahaprabhu wanted to give me the credit. Mahaprabhu gave him the credit by making him set up the institution on behalf of. I just want to, we've gone beyond time. Whatever you say, I can do. I just wanted to offer one little opportunity. If any of the Vaishnavis have some question or comment. Okay, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much for the
Maikam
wonderful.
karoti vachalam.
Prabhu, in the class you mentioned that the guru of Narottama Das Thakur Mahashaya, like the Diksha guru is Lokanath Goswami and Shiksha guru is
Jiva
Jiva
Goswami.
Goswami. But if you see the disciplic succession, there we find that 24th number Raghunath,
Jiva, Raghunatha, Jiva.
and then 25th Krishna Das, and then 26th Narottama. And we understand this was the disciplic succession, like it was like, I believe Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj had given this
These are
disciplic.
the prominent acharyas.
So, according to that, Prabhu, like I'm not able to understand like how Krishna Das Goswami, Kaviraj Goswami is connected to Narottama Das Thakur Mahashaya.
Oh, okay. Narottama Das Thakur's early upbringing in the philosophy of Chaitanya Vaishnavism was through Chaitanya Charitamrita and little bit of Chaitanya Bhagavat. So there is a connect. He has taken Shiksha primary because he never met Mahaprabhu. The fact that he developed his ecstatic love of Gaura Prema was through his education from the what Vrindavan Das Thakur and Krishna Das Kaviraj have provided. And Vrindavan Das Thakur personally, they say, because some people say that he also appeared, he had darshan of Vrindavan Das Thakur also. But it's mostly because he got the teachings from Krishna Das Kaviraj directly. And this, if you notice, it's primarily the Shiksha Parampara. It's not the Diksha Parampara. So ours is primarily Shiksha Parampara. Otherwise, where is Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj? Where is Bhaktivinoda Thakur? They are both Shiksha Gurus in the Parampara. So that's the understanding.
So, like it's the books that Narottama Das Thakur.
Because the teaching, because it's Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami alone who was present at everything, including the Antyalila. Antyalila is not there in other books. So the entire teaching and lot of teachings of Mahaprabhu come in the Antyalila. All is Vipralamba Bhava, everything which is demonstrated at Gambhira and other places is demonstrated in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Thakur Mahashaya had that Vipralamba Bhava naturally because he was feeling the natural connect to Mahaprabhu. Like I said, he was weeping in separation from Gaur Nitai, that they had to appear in the dream with the Panchatattva and say, please don't worry. So just see, how could that have come? Because he was not initiated, no then? That's it.
So, if you allow, can I ask one more question?
I don't know. If it's time, I'm okay. Yes or no? That's question. Yes, okay.
Prabhu, like it might not be a good question, but Prabhu, like we
I
celebrate.
can't guarantee about the answer either. But just
So we celebrate the disappearance of acharyas, but when it comes to the like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, and Advaita Acharya, we don't do disappearance day of them.
because we don't, in general, we don't observe the disappearance of Vishnu Tattva. That's the case. What do you see? That way you'll have to, like Janmashtami, you'll have to have something in Prabhasa Kshetra. We should develop a temple for disappearance of Krishna. And on the bank of Sarayu, you should put up a Samadhi for Lord Ramachandra. No. Appearance of Vishnu Tattva is, because Vishnu Tattva is there all the time. Even disappearance is just a temporary this thing. Even for Vaishnavas, we should understand. But Vaishnavas, we will not understand because they are not Vishnu Tattva. So therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, he reasons ill who says Vaishnavas die. Otherwise, you and I will not understand that disappearance is also to be celebrated. Because he's gone back to Nityalila Pravishta. So that understanding for Jivas, we don't have. Therefore, we have to celebrate. But for Vishnu Tattva, we are clear. Vishnu Tattva is Vishnu Tattva. We are still, he's there everywhere. Krishna is Sarvavyapi, whatever. His omnipresence is already understood. Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishinam. So their understanding is there. So we don't need to separately. There is no disappearance for them. They are there all the time. In fact, they are also present in the form of the holy name. Mahaprabhu is present in the form of the holy name also. He is not disappeared. Even if you want to externally think his physical form is not there. Plus, Mahaprabhu is present in the form of his Vigraha. He is not disappeared. Archa Avatara, which is, it's there. It's Pratima Nahi Tumi Sakat Brajendra Nandan. It's Krishna himself. No? It's not a theoretical, abstract which is imposed on it. We know that. But not so with Vaishnavas. So we have to celebrate the disappearance day.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. If you allow, can I add to his question?
Please.
The previous one, the Guru Shishya Parampara. So our Parampara that is being printed in the Bhagavad Gita or in our books, that is mixed with Shiksha Gurus and Diksha Gurus.
Yes. Prominent acharyas.
Yeah, prominent acharyas. It's not initiated disciples or initiating gurus consecutive in chronology. So our parampara goes like this. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu initiated Loknath Goswami. He initiated Narottama Das Thakur. Narottama Das Thakur initiated Ganga Narayan Chakravarti. Ganga Narayan Chakravarti initiated Sri Krishna Charan Chakravarti. Sri Krishna Charan Chakravarti initiated Radharaman Chakravarti. And Radharaman Chakravarti initiated Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So up to this is direct line. And then what happens? From Madhva line comes Baldev Vidyabhushan. He was initiated in Madhva line. And when he came to Jagannath Puri, in Jagannath Puri there was a great devotee called Radha Damodar Dev Goswami. So he converted him from Madhva teachings to Gaudiya teachings. But he did not initiate. Baldev Vidyabhushan did not take re-initiation. He was already initiated. And then he instructed him to go to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in Vrindavan. So Baldev Vidyabhushan comes to Vrindavan and he takes his Shiksha. He remains his Shiksha disciple. So that's how our parampara is printed like this. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, then Baldev Vidyabhushan. From there it begins Shiksha. And he had a disciple at Chandra Sarovar in Govardhan, Uddhav Das Babaji Maharaj. He had a disciple named Madhusudan Das Babaji Maharaj, whose disciple was Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. And his disciple was Bhagavat Das Babaji Maharaj, and his disciple was Gaur Krishna Das Babaji Maharaj. Where is Bhaktivinoda Thakur? Actually, Bhaktivinoda Thakur comes in the line of Janava Mataji, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur's guru, initiating guru was Vipin Bihari Goswami Maharaj. And this is how our entire parampara is mixed with Shiksha Gurus and Diksha Gurus. That's how. It's not directly Diksha Gurus. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Should we conclude? Srila Narottama Das Thakur Mahashaya Tirobhav Titi Mahamotsav ki Srila Prabhupada ki Shri Shri Radha Rasa Bihari Lalita Vishaka Gaur Nitai Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki Shri Shri Yashoda Damodar ki Nitai Nitai Gaur Sitanath Premanande.